I'm Andy Beningo, and I'm a stand-up comedian. I've been to some pretty cool places, and I've worked with some pretty cool people. This is my life on the road.
It is a tough life being a stand-up comedian. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Road with Andy Beningo. And this week I'm performing in the Outer Banks in North Carolina.
I absolutely love it here in the Outer Banks, and I think the only person that probably loves it more is this week's guest, Greg Smrdel. Greg is a prolific stand-up comedian, radio personality, and the author of the new novel, Home Sweet Outer Banks Home, The Story Continues.
Thanks for being on the show, and I just wanted to ask you, what is so special about the Outer Banks?
Well, for me, it started back in the 70s. My family vacationed back here down in 1976.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, I don't know how to explain it other than the fact that when we crossed that bridge, and you know the bridge I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That takes you right into Kitty Hawk over to Dare County.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. I almost hate saying it, but when I crossed that bridge for the first time,
Yeah.
it felt like I was at home.
Really?
And I was
Yeah.
like 15 years old. What do I know about like that kind of thing? But that's the way it was with me. And I knew at that point, back in 1976, one day this would be my home.
That's fantastic. And
Yeah.
so obviously you do a lot of your novels, a lot of your stories
Yeah.
take place here in the Outer Banks.
Yeah, all of my novels do, and all of the novels that are going to be coming up in the future will as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little cottage industry, I guess,
Sure,
for lack of
sure.
a better way of putting it. People love the Outer Banks. They come here for vacation. They want to take some of that home with them.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully my stories and my novels provide some of that. Growing up, we were a family of swimmers, and we were always in the water. And it was weird because, I watch now. As a matter of fact, my wife and I went down to Coquina Beach today, and I was just watching people like setting up tents and setting up
Yeah.
umbrellas, and it's so much work. But
Right.
when we go to the beach, it was me and my kids, and even now it's just like we throw all their stuff on the sand. We go in the water, and then like hours later, we come out of the water, grab our stuff, turn off, and go home.
Yeah.
So it was just that's the way it was when we were kids. That's the way it is now as adults, and it's just we're just water family, water people.
Nice.
The beautiful beaches are definitely one of the reasons why so many people come to the Outer Banks.
As you can see, the Outer Banks has some of the most beautiful coastline in the entire world.
Jeanette's Pier is one of my favorite stops on the OBX. The beach access is a perfect spot for surfing,
Green like they're split now and
or just relaxing on the beach. Jeanette's Pier is also the perfect place to do some deep sea fishing. Every day, dozens of fishermen cram the pier in hopes of catching a record-breaking fish. There have definitely been some monsters caught at the pier and in North Carolina, including this replica 441-pound swordfish that was caught in 1979. But the beaches aren't the only cool thing about coming to the Outer Banks.
One thing I like about it, just being a big history nerd,
Yeah.
is that there's so many different historic
so many
spots.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite historical
Well,
spots here?
the place you went to today, as a matter of fact, the Wright Brothers Memorial, where the first flight took place back on December 17th, 1903. That's certainly one of my favorites.
The Wright Brothers National Memorial is a beautiful memorial dedicated to Wilbur and Orville Wright. Back in 1903, Kill Devil Hills in Kitty Hawk was basically a giant sand dune and was the perfect spot to test out their flying machines. After many years of trial and error, the first flight happened, and the airplane stayed in air a total of 59 seconds. Imagine how excited people must have been when the plane actually worked. The memorial actually has a small working airport nearby. It's a long way to get to the top of the memorial, though.
Difficult shot.
Want to sprint up there?
I am definitely not in good shape.
But the view from the top of the monument is definitely worth the hike.
So believe it or not, this actually used to be a giant sand dune, and the Wright brothers would climb to the very top of this spot and just watch their planes take off.
Another historical spot is Roanoke Island. In 1597, more than 100 English settlers came to Roanoke Island. But a war with Spain prevented speedy resupply of the colony, and when a rescue mission arrived 3 years later, the town was abandoned and the colonists had vanished. It remains one of history's biggest mysteries.
Where do you think all those people went?
Well, there's a lot of theories, but there's some theories about Indians had killed them off.
Right.
There's theories about them intermarrying with the Indians.
Yeah,
and
kinda-
becoming
kinda
Indians.
yep.
Yeah, and there's some evidence of some blue-eyed Indians that they have discovered in the past. So my theory is that they just married off with the Indians. There was there's architectural, not architectural. That's stupid. Archaeological.
Sure.
Evidence
yep,
that
yep.
there was a drought during those 3 years that they were here without supplies. So they probably went to live with the Indians, and they took them into their tribe and just became part of it.
So you don't believe in the theory that aliens abducted them all and they all disappeared?
That's stupider than my archaeological comment.
But hands down, the best place on the Outer Banks is Duck Doughnuts.
It's still warm too. It might be the best donut I've ever had in my entire life. Yeah, the chocolate's like really warm and gooey still, and then the coconut topping is like sugary, so it just makes for the perfect donut. They're still open, so I'm probably gonna get another one. This chocolate is so good. I might move here to the Outer Banks just for the donuts.
If you like this week's show, please click the subscribe button below and you'll get notifications to upcoming episodes.